Last year, I made these cute little ghosties for Halloween. They love reading, so they started a club dedicated to finishing all the books they bought but never got around to reading. They're one of my favorite designs I've made so far, and y'all seem to like them too, since it's the best-selling 3D print file on my shop. This year, I'd like to add more members to the book club, but with a practical twist. And what's more fitting than making book stoppers? With that being said, it's time for a little crafting magic. If you ever wonder how I come up with ideas, I just do a bunch of little doodles until I find a design I like. I like the idea of the ghost sitting on a beanbag chair or even a fancy cozy chair, but I don't think these would work that great as book stoppers. So I kept going until I came up with these two concepts. Concept 1, a little ghosty reading on the stump, very cozy, very whimsical. And concept 2, a little ghosty on a swing, very hee-hee, very whimsical. I'm super excited to sculpt these, so let's grab the iPad and launch Nomad Sculpt. I was planning to reuse the base ghost model from last year, but I couldn't open the file, it kept crashing. So I'm gonna have to start over. But that's okay, I've got a lot more 3D modeling skills than I had a year ago, so this is gonna go pretty fast. I'll start with a sphere, then add a cylinder. Merge that together and smooth that out. Then pull on the bottom with the symmetry activated so it gets mirrored all around. I added the eyes, rounded tube for the arms. The legs and slippers I did manage to recover from a previous file, so no need to resculpt them. I also managed to recover the book, so I'll set that aside for later. Now that I have the ghost sculpted, I'm gonna get started on concept 1. For the tree stump, I made the base shape from a bunch of twisty tubes, then merged that all together and added texture. I added moss, and to make it extra whimsy, added a couple of little mushrooms. Let's add the little ghosty and the book from earlier. And this is the final result. It looks so cute. 10 out of 10 hee for me. I went ahead and separated the design into multiple pieces to make it easier to paint. I'll only print the stump for now and wait till I finish the second concept to print the rest on my resin printer. Since the tree stump is a bigger piece, I'm gonna print it on my dad's filament printer. I got the print started. It's gonna take around 5 hours, so while that prints, let's work on the second concept. I'm gonna take the same approach as the stump and use a couple of twisty tubes to make the tree. Then added texture and covered the base in moss. Then made the swing. I'm gonna use real strings for the swing ropes, so these are just placeholders for now. Then I added the ghost. He's so cute. I love both designs so much, but the swing one just has a special place in my heart. Let me know which one is your favorite. Now I need to prepare the design for 3D printing. This is my least favorite part of the process, so I always do this off camera. Basically, I'm just joining shapes together, then adding keys and holes, so it's easier to print and paint. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll use real string for the swing, so I cut 4 holes in the plank and made little slits on the top of the branch so I know where to tie the string once the tree is printed. Speaking of tree, let's check on the tree stump. Oh boy, that's a lot of string. We're just gonna ignore that for now and get the tree print going. While that's printing, I'll prepare the other pieces for resin printing. I'll do that in 2 batches since I also need to test print a bun from my previous video. Alrighty, let's run the first batch. If you are enjoying the video so far, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you'd like to print your own ghosties, the 3D print files are available for purchase on my website. A couple of hours later, the print is done. I had a few pieces that failed or didn't print at all, so I added them to the second batch. Off camera, I'll remove the supports and clean the pieces. Then, once dried, they'll go for a spin in the curing station for a couple of minutes. Looks like the tree also finished printing after 14 hours and 18 minutes. Wow. Alrighty, both trees printed successfully, apart from this tree. This usually happens when the filament is humid, like for example, when you forget to seal the filament spool properly when you're done using it. My bad. Anyways, let's remove these supports. Ow, made a boo-boo. But it's fine, I am a strong woman, so I'll keep going. To remove some of the strings, I'll first go over the surface with a sanding sponge. Then I'm gonna do something that you should absolutely not do inside. I used a lighter to melt the remaining strings. This should have been done outside with a respirator, so please don't be like me, don't breathe in plastic fumes. Anyways, maybe it's the fumes talking, but that worked pretty good. Okay, let's do the tree next. You know, sculpting digitally is really fun, but being able to hold your design in your hands in real life is even more exciting. You can really take a good look at it from all angles. Whoa, minute. Why does this branch look like a foot? Oh my god, it looks like a whole leg too. I didn't do this on purpose. No. Hopefully it won't be noticeable once it's painted. Anyways, I melted the remaining stringies and now both pieces are ready for a few coats of primer. I'm gonna do this outside with my respirator, then let that dry in the sun for a few hours. While that dries, I'll grab the resin pieces and remove the leftover support marks by sanding everything smooth. Then I'll wash everything in warm soapy water to remove all the dust. I usually let the pieces air dry, but I was too impatient, so I dried it off with my hairdryer. Then I propped the pieces I needed to paint on alligator clips. The ghosts I won't bother painting since they're already white. I'm getting low on primer, so I'm gonna use white primer for lighter colored pieces and gray primer for the rest. Hopefully I have enough to cover everything. And of course, I'll go outside and wear my respirator. So while that's drying, I'd like to take a minute to properly introduce the existing members of the book club. We have Hélène, Géraldine, Monique, and Bob. When they were alive, they loved to read, but never got around to finishing their reading lists before they passed away. Now they can't cross over to the light until they complete their list. Bob owned a bookstore, so he's gonna be here for a while. Anyways, that's all for now. Let's paint some trees. I did a few thick layers with gray primer, and that did a pretty good job covering the layer lines, but there's still a few spots I'd like to patch. So I mixed polyfill and acrylic modeling paste with a bit of orange paint so I can better see where I'm applying it. I applied it here and there to patch the problem areas. I kinda went overboard on the tree, but in my defense, I had mixed too much putty and didn't want to waste it, so might as well use it. I'm gonna let those two dry overnight and paint it tomorrow. Ugh, foot. It is tomorrow, so let's start by covering up that orange with black paint. Same thing for the tree stump. I'm gonna start with the wood part, so I did the first pass with a medium brown. I wouldn't say I'm dry brushing, but my paintbrush isn't exactly wet either. It's more like a damp brushing, I guess. Basically, I'm covering around 80% of the surface with paint. Then I did a second pass with a lighter brown, mostly to highlight the texture. Next, I'll paint the moss. Similar to the wood, I did a first pass with a darker foresty green, again covering like 80% of the surface. Did a second pass with a brass green. and then a final third pass with a bright green, but only on the fluffier surface of the moss. That turned out pretty great, so let's do the tree in the exact same way. This was so fun and easy to paint. It's what I call Sunday painting. You don't really have to try very hard or paint neatly. The texture of the sculpt does all the work for you. So I was thinking about names for our 2 new club members, and I decided on Josette for the tree stump ghost and Jeanette for the ghost on the swing. Jeanette is the only one who doesn't have a book, and that's because she really enjoys being a ghost. She loves to haunt the neighborhood park, especially the old tree with the swing. Anyways, when I was done painting the moss, I got started on the tree. And no, painting didn't hide the foot at all. Ugh, stupid foot. You know what? I'm just gonna include the foot branch in the book club lore. Let me think. So, legend has it an evil witch turned her enemy into a tree. That tree grew one branch, shaped like a human foot. So the locals call it the witch tree. And they also believe, rightfully so, that it's haunted by the victim's ghost. That's all for the trees. I'm gonna set that aside to let it dry and start painting the rest of the pieces. I don't really have much to say about painting these, so let me tell you the rest of the story. So Josette and Jeanette were rival witches, and each year they would enter the Harvest Festival's baking contest. Josette was the undefeated champion. She was a great baker. But then Jeanette went and stole Josette's recipe book and won the pie contest that year, using Josette's pie recipe. Like, girl, can you believe that? Lola, la chicane a pris dans la cabane. So in revenge, Josette turned Jeanette into the foot tree. I'm shocked to hear this. Can you believe this? Like, wow, who knew there would be so much drama in the book club? Anyways, on to the ghosties. I'll paint their eyes black. I try to be careful and as neat as possible, but if you mess up, you can easily scratch the paint off with a sharp tool. Next, I'll use pastels, specifically this red one. To apply the blush, I use a Q-tip and rubbed it on softly. I also cleaned up the fallouts with the clean side of the Q-tip. Let's also do Jeanette. Isn't she adorable? So cute. And lastly, I'll add little lines of text on the pages with a colored pencil. Now that everything is painted, I'm gonna seal the ghost with Mr. Super Clear because it has a UV protection, and that should help prevent the resin from yellowing in the long run. I'll use satin varnish for the legs, and the rest will get sealed with a matte varnish. So again, let's take these outside to spray. I put this part in the sun, but the ghostie is in the shade to prevent any yellowing. I let that dry for a full 24 hours, and now it's time to assemble. I'm using super glue to stick the parts together. Be careful not to apply too much because it leaves a white residue when it dries. Super glue is super strong, so you really don't need a lot for it to hold. We're almost done, just need to add the strings to the swing. This is just regular sewing thread that I braided together. I tied 2 knots towards the middle to help keep the swing level. Threaded that through the holes. Made more knots. That looks about right, so I cut off the excess thread and added a drop of super glue to prevent any fraying. Then use hair clips to hold the swing in place. This way I can make sure it's level before I super glue the strings to the branch. And that's it, we're done. Let's see the final shots. So, what do you think? I think they turned out so cute, and the fact that the swing works is just moi, chef kiss. If you have any suggestions for what next year ghosties should be, let me know in the comments. With that being said, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.